Sally, I was struggling when the company name, my New York accent was going to come out like big time. Like I knew I was going to have to think about this before I spoke because I knew I was going to say Salty Dog because it would be the way that I would end up saying it if I was back home.
So you do you.
All right. Anyway, I got through that. I was stressing a little bit, but anyway, why don't we talk about Salty Dog? And you've been around franchising for 20 plus years. We won't say the exact number, right? No, but you've been part of Salty Dog now for quite a bit. This is an emerging franchise concept, though you are certainly, I consider you a franchise pro. So if you would share with the audience what Salty Dog is and what led you to being part of the
All right,
company.
awesome. So Salty Dog Pet Salon Plus Bakery is a brick and mortar pet grooming franchise. We're an emerging brand, of course. And we also have bakery and retail. Now, no, our franchisees do not bake any items. It's just like cookies, treats, cupcakes, things like that. I have vendors for all of it. No cooking skills needed. That is a question I get all the time, actually. They're like, do we need to learn how to cook dog cookies? I'm like, no. But fun fact, they are almost all of them human grade. There is the occasional like bones and things like that. We don't want humans chewing on bones, but human grade. We're really humanizing the pet experience. That's our focus.
And as a former dog owner, we know that we will do anything for our pet and we will spend an unlimited amount of money to make our pet happy.
People are spending more money on their pets than they do on their children, which is amazing. Usually they're having pets, not children. That's the latest thing. That's why the industry is growing like, it's just booming.
It is an incredible industry. How did you get started working for the company?
So a fellow partner of ours, Gary Ratner, actually found me at Springboard, I think 3 springboards ago. I'm like, wait, we just have one. So he found me and he knew I was looking at getting back on the franchisor side of things. I've been an advisor and working on the supplier side for a while now. And I was interested in finding a brand I could get passionate about and get behind. And he found me, and it took about 9 months of talking before I finally came over and started with the brand last July. So July of 2023 is when I started.
Yeah, we go way back. You and I met in IFA years and years ago when you were a franchise supplier, and now it's got to be totally different being on the other side of the fence now as a franchisor and now CEO of this emerging brand.
Well, it's taking me back to the start. So fun fact, my first two brands in franchising were franchisors. One was not a franchise in the US, but I moved overseas to open up their multiple master locations, but most predominantly in the UK. And then when I came back to the US, I worked with Aussie Petmobile when they only had 13 locations. So I had a lot of fun. That's where I started. I fell in love with franchising, and I just couldn't leave since then.
So I understand Salty Dog started in 2018. Can you kind of share the origin of the company?
I can share a little bit of the origin. I wasn't involved in the very beginning of it, but John Kansky, the late John Kansky, was a multi-unit franchisee of Paul Mitchell, the schools. He had 7 Paul Mitchell schools. He went to Win Claybaugh, and they just had a really bad experience. Him and his wife had a bad experience with their dog, and they're both in the hair industry. They came back. The dog, first of all, had a terrible cut. Came back, it was all shaky and nervous, and like they were like, what happened to our baby, right? So they ended up coming up with this concept of how can we make a more human-like experience, a more pleasurable spa-like experience for the pet. And then the pet parent, of course, is a much happier pet parent. And so when Claybaugh and John Kansky started, the ideation, they built the first location and tested a bunch of stuff out. And then when they were ready to start selling and, really build the franchise last July is when they brought me in.
Okay, so was franchising like part of the initial plan right from the get-go?
It was, yes, because Win Claybaugh, so he's the co-founder of Paul Mitchell, the schools, with John Paul DeJoria of Paul Mitchell. So already familiar with franchising. John Kansky, multi-unit franchisee, they built this with the plan to build it for, long-term franchise growth.
Okay. Now, Sally, you've been in franchising for a while. Like I said, you've seen good brands and you've seen some bad brands, right? Let's be honest.
Seen a few.
You've seen a few. And we all know that to succeed in franchising, it's not easy. We've all heard the statistic that 400 new franchisors start every year, and there's 400 that are exiting every year, or somewhere in that neighborhood. So I bet it really took a lot for you to be impressed by a brand. What led you to Salty Dog that you said, yeah, I believe in this brand? What made them different?
For me, everybody is about people, processes, product, right? I'm all about that, of course, but it's people and culture, I think, are the most important. less so the product. You can have the most amazing product on the market or service, right? But if you don't have people and culture, you can fall flat. So what I fell in love with, I really fell in love with the people behind it. I love the culture that comes down from Paul Mitchell. Like, we really bring the culture in from Paul Mitchell, the schools. And I was literally just yesterday at their conference, and it's just amazing because it's very inclusive. People find a home when they come there. They are passionate. The passion is there, right? And so that's what I really loved. And of course, I mean, pets, one booming industry. You can't go wrong there. Love pets myself. So that was great. And then the brand itself, like, it's sexy, it's fun. I can work with this. Like, I wear this hat around and people are like, "Are you salty today?" Like, yes, I am the OG salty
I'm salty
every
every
day.
day.
It's a little bit sweet because we do have that trademark as well. But
Oh, do you? That's great. One of the things about Salty Dog that you shared with me before we started recording is the strategy for growth. And I understand that an area rep or area development strategy is part of the plan for Salty Dog, and that we've got a couple of franchise owners that are now area reps. What led you guys to going in that direction? And I say that because, let me just kind of preface it by saying a lot of the folks in the audience here are fellow emerging franchisors. They're founders, CEOs, brand presidents, as well as people looking obviously to buy a franchise potentially. But as a way of expansion, some of these founders are thinking, is area development a way for me to go of selling an area? And what kind of led you guys to deciding to go that as opposed to just the single mom and pop franchise location model?
okay, so that's a great question. And I'm going to say that I'm going to preface it with this. I don't believe everybody should do it, because if you go down that
Mm-hmm.
model without having the knowledge, you can really fail. I had thought about it prior to just doing it now, but I did have personal experience in that. We went through a acquisition merger in officially August 1st of 2024. And the company that acquired us that's what they've done. They've done like 10,000 locations through area rep models or area developer models. And I felt really comfortable with that. I mean, to be able to have the backing that I have now, the knowledge, I mean, they've done it so many times, right? I can't go wrong. It's not about me. I have this amazing team. But now with that, the franchisees can come in, they can build out their own locations, they can expand to becoming an area rep. And what's beautiful about that is there is this extra layer as an emerging brand of support for the franchisees. So I've got my portfolio company, great. Then there's the Salty Dog franchisor support level. Then they've got an area rep support person, and that person, my guys are multi-unit franchisees already. They have like a lot of experience. They can really help them grow. So now all the franchisees under them have multiple layers of knowledge and support and all of that. I think it's a great way to grow if you get the right people as area reps and you understand what you're doing.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you kind of gave that warning, because for the individual that's just franchised their concept thinking this is the way that I'm going to grow faster, it's also the way you're going to close even faster.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
If you're not doing it right.
Yeah. And I
Everything.
wasn't comfortable before.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. What
I
was
was saying
that?
I wasn't comfortable before the merger doing it myself because I don't have I have the knowledge now, but not like I do with loyalty brands. So it's amazing to have them.
Well, essentially, for the folks that are listening to this, that are even considering it, you realize that an area rep is kind of a mini franchisor. You need to supply them with literally everything that you're doing yourself in your corporate office. Yes, you do have the back office support and you're providing still a lot of services, but you need to arm the area rep with everything, because they're really a earpiece of the franchisor.
They absolutely are. They're the boots on the ground. They're the ones making sure that the franchisees are actually doing what they need to be doing, that they are successful, that have the needs met, everything that they need to be successful, those sorts of things. They help with everything from site location. We do have vendors for that, but they are involved in that process, making sure that they do pick the right sites. I'm involved as well, but they're the extra layer there.
Yeah. And with that area rep strategy, we quickly find out as franchisors that if there's any holes or any gaps in our systems or processes, it gets magnified very quickly, or I should say it comes to light very, very
It sure
fast.
does. Yeah. We've already found a few and fixed them, so that's great, I welcome that. There's always room for improvement, right?
Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fumey, or Emerging Franchise Group, LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.